and thank you. So federation is a concept, is a process through which you get single sign on, you get again connectivity to different applications, you connect to MFA, right? You manage your user identities, whichever you, again, I'm not going too broadly. So these are the different scenarios that you can get using federation. Basically, federation is a process or a concept, and single sign on are the result of this particular federation. Is it clear now? Ish?
Yes, Ravi.
Fine. Okay. Any further
So,
questions?
so that in a sell point there is another option for a login configuration, that
Mhm.
is pass through authentication. So is it also covered under federation?
Pass through, yes, but slightly. I'll give you a example of pass through. In a nutshell, pass through means, for example, you log into a directory, okay, or a system. This could be a directory or any system. Pass through authentication is a way in which your authentication is happening here virtually, but eventually, because your passwords are stored in this system, right, on the back end, this is your actual authentication provider. Means your user identities are stored here, user identities are stored here, example, your passwords are stored here. So in that case, a user is there in this directory only, directory 1. But because your password is stored in directory 2, there is a pass through authentication, a through authentication that is done from one system to another system. This is called pass through authentication. From a user perspective, you are still in directory 1, but because your password is in directory 2, and this is a classic case or a use case where organizations are moving from one directory to another directory, again, due to merger, due to compliance, due to migration from old to new, any use case you take it, you have a old directory where all your username and passwords are stored, but now you have migrated to a new directory where only your users are stored because of some reason. And to continue doing this, okay, you want to continue the authentication, right? You use this concept of pass through authentication. Clear, Praveen?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, okay. But any questions, anyone, on federation before we move to authentication and authorization? Okay, now let's go on to authentication. What is authentication, by the way, guys?
Verifying the ID
Okay, how?
with the help of information such as username and password and MFO as well.
Okay, and what is authentication, authorization?
Authorization is what kind of access you have to the resources.
Yes, very good. Thank you very much, Isht. To set the base, I have an example which is, imagine you go to an office. Okay, so proof of identity. Very good. Thank you very much, Santosh. You go to an office. What is the first thing that they would check at the security entrance?
ID card.
ID
ID
card.
card,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, your ID card is being checked. It has some details. And when you get inside the office, there are different cubicles, right? Different cabins, different rooms. Imagine this is HR room. Again, I'm considering this as room, sales, IT, development. You belong to IT. Can you access each and every, go and swipe your ID card in each and every door and get inside?
No.
Why?
Workstation.
No, we are not
We
authorized.
are not authorized to do so.
Yes. This is on a very simplistic way. This is called authentication, authorization. On authentication, you're proving who you are by presenting your ID card, government ID card, username and password, anywhere where you're proving who you are actually. Okay, by providing ID card, username and password, all of that. Once the identification is validated, then you get inside. There'll be multiple resources in the cloud, on prem. You get access to only those resources which you should have access to based on your roles and responsibility. This is called authorization on a very high level. Okay, now is it clear so far? Okay, thank you. Now let's move on to how do we achieve this. Okay, let's start from some use cases. As I said, authentication is a process in which you prove yourself. So one of the way you prove yourself is username and password. Okay, where do you use username and password? Can you tell me a few example?
Ravi, before that one, I have one query. Before authentication, is there any word called identify or something?
Identify as in?
Suppose if you are trying to access Google account, instead of exact correct username, if you give different username, right? First, it will check whether that username is available or not, right? Then, if the username is available, then it will go for cross check with the password, and then it will authenticate it. Then we can access maybe other apps, maybe otherwise something like that.
Yes, that is a very good point. So what, just to give a context to everyone, what Shiva is saying that let's split this into two half. Okay, pre and post. Okay, and both are authentication. This is pre-auth. You have post-auth. Pre-auth is where the activeness of the user, whether the user is valid or not, all of that is checked. Post is when you are successfully authenticated. Okay, so Shiva, yes, you can have a system where, for example, if you're performing an authentication, this could be your authentication server, and this server you are just checking the status of the user before even letting them to check the password. Okay, fine. Have you guys heard about identifier first raptor?
No,
Yes,
Ravi.
you have not heard about. Who was this? Ish, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have
What?
heard about it.
Yeah. Alka.
Yeah.
Again, this is very relevant for people who actually know this, and we'll cover this. So, what Shiva is saying is the pre-auth part, right? Is where your identifier first raptor helps you. What you can do in identifier first raptor, you can allow them to put up a username, you check it against any domain, and then you can bring the HTML format after.
Yes.
So this is what he's telling. A lot of the organizations have started to use an identifier first adapter to do a pre-auth, and after that they are doing the HTML form.
Or Kerberos.
Yeah, or Kerberos. So this gives a flexibility, a great flexibility. For example, if you have a user base or directory where you have three directories on the backend, okay, users from different directories will log into the same URL. In that case, what would be best is you have a identifier first adapter, you check the domain, and based on that provide them the HTML form adapter, which is tagged to a PCV on the backend, tagged to a data store of that particular domain. Okay, so it's a very good point, Shiva. Thank you very much. So this, guys, is a part of a pre-auth, and many organizations do pre-auth where they, you just put your username, they first check whether the username is valid or not, only then present you the second form, which is the password form, and then you authenticate. But yes, now if someone is not doing, it is good that you go and recommend that why are we not doing pre-auth. Can we do? And a lot of the organizations that you'll be working in, if it is a merger or if there are multi-domain that the same tool is maintaining, identifier first adapter is one of the best way. And if some of the organization is already using and you're not sure, go and check how it is deciding what is happening on the identifier first adapter on the backend. Okay, but thank you very much for bringing this up. This is a very good way of going little bit deep down around authentication, how to understand the pre-auth and post-auth.
Ravi, I have one question. Like, what
Yes.
is the benefit of this? Is it like you are verifying the username first and then asking the passwords? What's the benefit of it?
Yeah, I'll just draw it out and I'll show you. Okay. Mm, mm, mm. The benefit of always doing a pre-auth is, for example, let's say L&T. Okay, how many different domains industries L&T has? L&D has L&D Cement, L&D Shipping,
Technology
L&D
services.
Technology Services, right? IT, right? So now, if I say L&D has one identity provider, okay, and every time you get the same form, www, and whenever you access an application, there is a form which is asking you for username and password. Okay, now imagine you are a user. Its identity is set up in two different places. Okay, because you work in LNDS also, LND IT also. Okay, because of some reason you have to be a part of this. Now, when you log in, and if I present you with the same screen, okay, which
Okay.
username password you'll use?
Okay, got it. Like they both would be having different usernames, so that is verifying the domain.
So, if I tell you that, okay, I'll give you a screen where you're putting your username in, and username could be same. Okay, let's say your username is 12345. Okay, but if I see that your username 12345 and 1, okay, say for example 1 and 2, if there are two IDs here, okay, 1 and 2, and if you put 1, I give you a green screen where you put your password, and if you put 2, I give you a red screen where you put the LTIT password. Now it would make a little bit sense for you also, right? On which domain you are trying to log in. Or if I say, if you are connecting from VPN, and imagine you have the same user ID. If you are connecting from VPN 1 and then putting this user ID, you will be given a green screen. If you are connected to VPN 2 and you are using this ID, it will give you a red screen. So this is where identifier first adapter, or that pre-auth checking of the activeness of the user, becomes a very important role. And sometimes from a security perspective also, it is better to do a check of the activeness, because sometimes there are orphan accounts, and then immediately if you give a username and password format, there will be continuous bombarding of DDoS brute force attacks. Again, DDoS brute force, will cover that later. But this again will raise red flags, and then organizations will be panicked, and then you open up your environment to attackers to just try out whatever they can. But sorry, without even going to a point where your users are going to the point where you're performing authentication, you're just checking the validity and saying you cannot move forward. Simple, because this is the wrong ID. So no
Got,
logs are getting captured right over there. No panic status. Or else
got
continuously there'll be a bombarding if you give that password space to attacker, right? And eventually they
it.
may land with the right username and password. Fine.
Got it.
Let's move on to authentication. Okay. Okay. Authentication. Now, when you go to authentication, this is where you have different set. You can use LDAP also for authentication. It facilitates. Kerberos is also that helps you with authentication. Then comes the protocols like SAML, OIDC, okay, WS WS Trust, whichever. So this is basically the order in which it was actually introduced. Initially, it was LDAP, basic Windows functionality. Then Kerberos came into picture. Then came SAML, OAuth, and all of this protocol, which is primarily helping you for authentication. Okay, now authentication use cases where you want to prove the identity. You can prove identity using your email. You can prove identity using your national IDs, Aadhaar, PAN card, passport. You can use it through your biometrics. Can you give me an example where you're using biometrics to prove your identity?
In your phone?
Yes, yeah. Regularly you're using it in your phone. And national ID, one place where they do not allow you to get in without the national ID, where you have to authenticate yourself using a national ID.
Airport,
Airport.
airport.
Airport, yes. Okay. And email, and then your physical IDs are always there, offices and all of that. So these are the different ways in which you can do authentication, and these are the different process which helps you to perform authentication. Okay. Now let's move on to authorization. And again, guys, you do authentication, authorization. Every tool you will have to do that. And again, I am not expecting if any all of us here will be restricted to just becoming IM engineer or an analyst. I believe everyone, whoever is here, aspires to be a leader, a technical leader, a specialist. And these are some of the basic things that you need as a stepping stone. You have to learn this. Okay. Now going on to authorization. So what are the different use cases of authorization? Tell me.
One of them would be federating. So in federating, you can use authorization. So giving them access to only the relevant places.
Yes. Outcome of federation. Yes. Is authorization. Next. Eventually giving the right set of access to right set of folks. You need authorization, right? You need granularity. You need
Yeah.
Segregation of duty.
SODs.
Just in
Yes.
time provisioning also.
Yes. Just in time provisioning. JIP. Privilege management. Lease privilege. Yes. All of that. Lease privilege. In order to achieve lease privilege, you need to do authorization. Yes. Think it in that way. You're absolutely correct. Okay. I think this was from mm, Vikrant, right? Okay. Yes. Lease privilege management, lease privilege, these are all proof of identity. Santosh is a part of authentication. Okay. So it is actually a part of authentication where you're doing the proof of identity. Proof means, again, if you are proofing, you're doing authentication. But if you have gone past authentication, that is where you do authorization. Okay. So sorry, there is some issue with my tab where it is getting off continuously. Just one sec. Let me go back. Share whiteboard. Okay. I'll share my screen again. Okay. So authorization is again a use case of federation. It also helps you with role based access control, lease privilege. Okay. So just to divert a little bit, Bikrant, can you talk about lease privilege? What is lease privilege? Why do and what is lease privilege and why do organization use lease privilege? Just to understand your thought process on it. Have you worked on it or have you heard it somewhere? Just to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, Ravi, I have not worked on it, but I've been reading through the basic concepts of identity and access management. So,
Okay.
least privilege would refer to the fact that a resource or a employee should have
Minimum.
access to the resources, which a minimum access which
Mhm.
can help him to achieve his task and job, not more than
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. And whose principle is this? Least privilege is
Zero
actually
trust,
yes.
zero trust.
Least privilege is the one of the principle of zero trust. And the core concept of zero trust is what? There is one core concept of zero trust, right? Which says
Trust no one, verify everyone. Think.
yes. Very good. Who said that? Rishabh.
Yes.
Yes. NVTE. Never trust, verify everyone. Okay, so always verify. Okay. So this is the principle of least privilege. Sorry, let me erase this. Again, we'll go a little bit in detail, but I thought Vikrant just said this. So never trust, always verify is the core of zero trust. One of the principle when you say never trust, right, is to give least privilege. Why will I give all the access to my administrators or to the help desk or to a different team managing my infra? Like as a ping administrator or a cyber administrator, if there is a other team who might, like the business analyst team, who might want to do some activities, Why will I give them all the access that I have? I'll not trust. I'll make sure I'm always verifying them through different set of tools and technologies. And one of the principle that I'll do is I'll give them least privilege that they would need to do their job. Simple. Okay. So this is what is called least privilege. Other principles are also there. We'll have a section. We are also getting bringing up a podcast on zero trust, where some of our guests are going to talk about it. So yeah, again, don't worry. We'll cover all of that. Right now, moving on to the authorization. Okay, what are some of the tools and technologies that you can use to perform authorization? What can you expect in terms of authorization? Have you heard about RBAC? What is RBAC?
Role-based access control.
ABAC?
Attribute based access control.
Attribute-based, yes.
Okay. And what is entitlements? Sale point, folks.
Entitlements are the access on the end application.
Yes. What is SOD?
Ravi, even
Segregation of duty.
Yeah.
entitlements, it also called as giving permissions.
Yes, set of permissions.
Yeah.
Yes, combined set of permissions. SOD.
Segregation of duty.
What is segregation of duty?
I think.
This
So
means
in
that
this, the task is segregated to like to multiple person.
the one person should not have the conflict of access.
Hmm.
Yes. If
Okay.
one person has access to approve or generate the invoice, then he should not have the permission to approve that invoice. Say the
Yes.
example. Yes.
Request and approver, yeah.
So A is the request, B is the approver, C is the reviewer. Okay. Simple. In a very simple way. Segregation of duty. And again, to the access folks, segregation of duties might not be a term that you use on your day to day, but this is also important for you to understand while you're working that whenever anything that you're working on, you have to segregate the duties. Segregate the duties means if I am a person who's working, or for example, there is a process that in an organization, anyone who needs access to an application, they have to request the access. Okay, to perform their job. And then when the access is done, someone, if someone is requesting the access, there should be someone approving it and someone reviewing it. If I am the one who is who has to do the job, and if I am requesting the access, if I approve, I review, there could be a lot of security gap there. Things may go wrong in that case. And that is where the concept of segregation of duties, your duty is getting segregated, means Bikash, Rishabh and myself, if I am requesting it, Vikas will approve it, Rishabh will review it, and then only finally this whole process will be done. So that at every point there is a check, that every task, every stage of that task is being understood, reviewed, and is executed by a different person, not the same person. Okay, so this is where we call as segregation of duties. Now let's talk about again authorizing, giving access, right? So a concept called segregation of duty. Now what is RBAC?
Giving access to people as per their roles.
Yes, but why do we need this?
Like someone might require access for only Outlook, so we give access only based on that.
No, again, this is the
Because not
action.
all roles, because
Yes,
all
go ahead.
no, roles would not require the same type of access.
Yes, these are all the use cases that you're telling me. But why?
So if somebody is in HR department, they only need like Workday. They don't need Oracle database. So that's why we give access according to their roles.
Again, use case,
Okay.
Rishabh. But
So that
why?
Unauthorized access.
Sorry, one by
they
one.
can't breach the protocol.
Least privilege, I think.
Yes. Again, that is a principle,
Okay, okay.
right?
Protecting the resources.
Yes,
Unauthorized
protecting the
access.
resources. What are you achieving from RBAC? That is my question. Fine, you implement, you say that okay, HR should not have access to payroll app. This should not have access to that app.
You're restricting the access.
Compliance.
Basically, you're
Compliance is one of the important things. Second, yeah,
Governance.
Bhushan Nalka.
I was saying that the access is
Protecting
restricted
data.
only for the particular department or users.
Restricting access, right?
Also,
Yeah.
we
So
can
again, that is the
implement
outcome. Yeah, Praveen.
Okay.
birthright access by using this RBAC.
Again, that is the process you're telling. I want to
Yeah,
understand.
we are achieving authorization with RBAC.
Yes, authorization is one of the key things that you achieve. But why do you even want to achieve authorization? That's my question. What if you don't achieve authorization?
So we cannot give all sort of access to all the employees. We have to segregate it based on their
Why?
roles and
That
responsibilities.
is my question. Why? What you are saying is absolutely right. I
It,
want to understand why is company so much stressed about that this guy should have only this access or that access? Why?
And to protect the
to
Security
data.
yes,
concerns.
Yes, security is one of the main thing, right? See, giving access is not a big deal. In the past, people have given access. I used to request access and I used to get some access. But what if I go and do something, right? Imagine in an organization, one app is been used by 500 team members and one app is been used by 5 team member. Tomorrow, if there is any issues, you can easily track, right? But what about this 500 again admin privileges? Imagine. So it's the biggest security flaw that you are trying to prevent using authorization, right? That is one reason. And authorization, one of the part of authorization is RBAC, doing role based access control. Eventually, security is one. Second is the compliance part. I see a lot of you mention compliance. So compliance is another one. In the end, if a company is doing something, 80% is because of the compliance. 20% is to improve security, productivity, user experience, blah blah blah, all of that. But remember, if compliance is gone, right? No one initially compliance was not there too effective. Did you guys knew about IAM and all of that? No. But now that compliance is getting stronger and stronger in every region, every company, all of these are coming into picture. RBAC and all of this. SOX. Core of SOX is you should have SOD and you should have RBAC. SOX again, it is a homework for you guys to just go and learn. SOX, Surblaze and Oxley. Okay, Surbees and Oxley. That is what it's called. See what are the things that you need in SOX, and whatever I'm saying, these are actually happening in various organizations. Read about SOX, try to put that in your resume, understand them, and talk about it. Okay, we had SOX and all of these. This is what you do from here. Okay, from all of the sessions. Anyone wants to add anything? I see. I think Nishala, somewhere you were saying something. Did I cover all of that?
Yeah, I meant to protect data, which ultimately means security only.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we are done with authentication, authorization, and federation. Okay. Again, we just have 4 minutes. I'll open this forum for any questions, queries for me, and then we should be good to wrap up. So, any questions, any feedback, first of all? Do you guys feel this is something that is valuable, interesting, which will actually enhance your knowledge, or is it something that you knew and there was like you want us to add more interesting topic? Yeah,
this is
one by
very
one.
interesting, Ravi, and it requires a lot of knowledge and courage to organize such things. And you're doing a very good thing. Thank you for having us all on board.
Thank you, Alka. Thank you very much. Yes, guys.
Yeah, though we know some of the things, some of the new things we are getting to know through this, to put things in a better way, maybe while giving interviews or while speaking to people using the
Yeah, not just
vocabulary.
interviews, but in our knowledge also. There are a lot of things that I was not aware of, and this session is really informative.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you. Thank you, Nishala. Yes, guys. Any feedback that you have? Anything that you want us to add? Anything that you don't want us to include apart from the recordings, which will be available? But yes,
Ravi, please do include about the socks as well, because in my with my clients they do socks as well, so I could ask them about including me in that.
Absolutely. So start reading is okay. And once you have doubts, just put it on the chat, because
Sure.
we may cover it little later, but that should not stop you from hearing out views from people who are already working in it. So do your research, put your questions. We'll keep feeding in there. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Ravi, for auditing perspective, like in IAM, only SOC only will be that, or any other audits?
There are others also. I want others to add their views. So, guys, what are the different compliances that you have experienced working in, and to promote the channel? So, let the world know that there is a channel or a community in India who's passionate about IAM, and there are really good classic engineers out there who are adding values to organization, not just going and doing their job and coming back and becoming leaders in future. Because if you guys are having experience of between 3 to 7 years now at this moment, or even later on, you guys in the next 10 years will be the future leaders. So imagine if that eliteness, that classiness comes, what I have now, like I may be having 10% of the knowledge. If that also comes to you, plus your own set of learning, and making sure, as I said in my previous session, let's make sure if there are people struggling to get a job, if there are 130, 36 members in our group, make sure everyone first lands and gets a job.